So is my screen visible? Can anyone confirm?
Yes, Bhaiya.
Okay, fine. So
Yes, dear.
hello, welcome you all to this first workshop of event Cassandra. So basically, this is one of the 5 workshops that we will be going to be conducting throughout the 4 months till the event. So before starting, let we come to the plan of action, how we will proceed for the next four
Sorry
months.
for the interruption. Can you please change your mic?
Uh, Hello. Uh,
Can you?
There is a lot of noise coming. Now
okay.
it's okay.
Okay. Okay. One sec. I will just come in a minute. Come in a minute.
Now it's fine, Via.
Okay. Actually, there is some work going on. So, before moving forward with the contents of today's slides, so firstly, we will start with the plan of action, how we will proceed for the next 2 or 3 months till the event. So, basically, firstly, I will explain you about the activities that will be going on through in this event. Uh, so we will start with 5 workshops, and after each workshop, we will be releasing an assignment. Most probably, it will be on the following day of the workshop, or maybe the day after that. So it will be like decided after the workshop. Then there will be 2 real-time quizzes. So basically, in this workshop we will be not going to take any quiz, but and the next one will be a collaboration between us and Mosaic. So those 2 workshops there will be no quizzes, but after that there will be 3 workshops. So we will be taking 2 real-time quizzes any time in between any like workshops. It will not be disclosed in which workshop we will be taking that real-time quiz. So these will be to ensure that you are like consistent with the workflow of our event. Then uh, our workshop, like the first 2 workshops, apart from the first 2 workshops, the remaining 3 workshops will be more of the discussion and based on your previous assignments that we will be giving you, so that you will be able to get some good innovation points from us. Like we will discuss how you approach that assignment, and we will provide you with some alternative ways of doing that assignment as well. So in that way it will be more of a discussion based type thing, not of a theoretical base that for the first 2 workshops that we will be giving. So after that, second workshop will be an exception. Yeah. Okay. So second workshop will be an exception, as I already told about Mosaic. That's an collaboration between both of us for the same concept that we will be teaching. Then comes the weightage part. Like, and one more thing, that a dummy competition will be conducted instead of the last assignment after the fifth workshop. So it will be helpful for you to be prepared before the main event. Then comes the weightage of that entire event. It will be divided in several parts. First of all, the first 3 assignments. Like, there will be 4 assignments after first 4 workshops. So out of that, the first 3 will be 5% each, which will comes down to 15%. Then the last assignment, that is the fourth one, after the fourth workshop, will be of 10%, because we are moving from zero level to ground up level. The first, uh, like the immediate assignment that we will be giving will be a slightly easier one, so that you will get started. But once you will get started, then we will like level up our assignments a bit, so that the marking scheme will also be increased. And then for the 2 real-time quizzes, 5% each. Then dummy competition will be of 15%, and our main event will be of 15%, 50%. So it's just to ensure that you will be consistent throughout the event, like all the activity that is going on throughout the event, not just for the main event. Because a good data scientist is a good data scientist, or a person who knows about data science, needs to be calm, consistent, and be like prepared with all the things that is going on. So we are not testing just your skills, but also your consistency as well throughout the event, and your patience to listen things. So this weightage is just to ensure that. So if anyone just go with the main event, then there will be no chance of winning that person, because it will only matter of 50%. But another team or another individual, if going through the event in a more consistent manner, then maybe can be the winner of this event. So now comes our uh, main thing. What is data science? So according to Wikipedia, like we will see, according to Wikipedia, there is a lot of like classical definition about data science, but in short, data science is just a collection of different domains. It will comprises of our computer science, our mathematics and statistical knowledge, and our business understanding. Like you can say a company will need to understand how the consumers or the customers will be using their product. So this involves handling of data as well. So this comes from the domain side of business. Then we will need to use some tools which will originate from computer science area, IT sector. Then we will need to understand the mathematics behind all the like curves or the different things, like how to understand the patterns, curves. So we will need the knowledge of mathematics and particularly statistics and probability for this. Then a question arises in everyone's mind, like why data science? Why we need data science? As we know, like we all listening that day, we are consuming a lot of data. But why data science? Why not anything else? So first of all, we know that in the recent times the data generation goes to a humongous level. So then all the data is all the data is raw. But from a business point of view, you will say, like considering the business case, from a business point of view, if any company want to understand this raw data that they will get from consumer, then they need to understand, for understanding that data, they will need persons, they will need the techniques to understand the science going on behind that data, to come up with better results of increasing their chances of consumer like usage of their products. So in that whole scenario, data science comes into action. So many tech giants, like you will see in action Microsoft data science in our core campus as well. Microsoft data science, you can say Mastercard AI, these will come for hiring data science AI the interns as well as for placements as well. So these companies are investing a lot of money and resources now in the whole R&D department of their data science. Then, like I told you different things about data science. If I ask you, there are a bunch of things in data science, so how we start? Then obviously you will say that we will not know how we will start, because we are just going into data science. So I will tell you, like, let's start with some classical fundamental terminologies. So I'm handing over to Ujjwal for explaining the classical terminologies or basic terminologies used in data science. So is Ujjwal, you are presenting or I will present?
I will present.
Okay, okay. So over to you. Just a second.
So is my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay. So hello everyone. I am Ujjwal Srivastav, Part 3 Electronics Engineering. So I am going to discuss the basic terminologies. Yes. So what is machine learning? So as it is written that machine learning is basically providing the machine's ability to learn automatically and to improve from experiences. Like we do not have to train them explicitly, like we do not have to program them. Being a child, we weren't able to differentiate between what is an apple and what is an orange. But as we grew up, we saw the differences. For oranges, we can see that they are orange in color and they are more round as compared to apples. So with the help of these characteristics, as we grew up, we were able to differentiate like this is an orange and this is an apple. So in a similar way, for machines, we provide data to machines. Now, what is the data here? So if you're wondering what is the data is basically all the characteristics of fruit, like whether it is whether it is an apple, orange, cherry. Like for apple, there will be different characteristics, like where it is found in abundance, and what is its color and what shape is it. And similarly for orange, like it is found majorly in Nagpur or anywhere else in India, and it is orange in color and more round as compared to apple. So these characteristics are there present in the data. And with the help of these data, the machines try to learn the similarities between these characteristics, like oranges have orange color and more round in shape as compared to apple. So with the help of this, they are able to tell whether it is an apple, orange, or a cherry. So in this way, machine learning works. Like they are given a data, they try to find a characteristic or pattern, and then out of that, they are able to figure it out, like whether it is cherry, apple, or orange. Now let me show you a basic example. So let us say here there is an x and y. Let us say these are x and y are a mapping. So let us say x is 1, y is 1, and when x is 2, y is 4, and when x is 4, y is 16. So what we can see, basically x and this is x square, y is basically x square, that is 1 square, 2 square, and 4 square. So now when we put this algorithm to machine, what it will do? It will first start from basic. Like first it will, let's say it guesses fx equals to x plus 2. So it outputs, like for 1 it outputs 1 plus 2, that is 3. For 2 it outputs 2 plus 2, that is 4. And for 4 it outputs 4 plus 2, that is 6. In this case, what it does is, for 1 the output is wrong. For 4 also the output is wrong. And for 2 the output is correct. So only for one of the input the output is correct, which means this is not the best mapping. So what it tries to does, it again goes back and sees that what are the similarities, like what it can find more, and it repeats the process again and again until it finds the best function. Here the best function can be represented as fx equals to x square. For 1 it gives 1, for 2 it gives 4, and for 4 it gives 16. So it is a best mapping as we can get from it. So whenever, now let's say you are introducing a new data set. Let's say you give 8. So for it will be able to predict correctly, like the answer will be 64. So this is the basic thing for machine learning. First it starts from scratch, it finds a function. The function may not be correct, it may be a basic function, but afterwards it tried to improve it, and afterward it finds a best function, like here it find it fx equals to x square, and it produces a best output. So in this way machine learning works. So this is all about machine learning. Now moving forward, so we can see, wait a minute. Yes, AL versus ML versus DL. Yes. So as we can see in the timeline, that as time grew, artificial intelligence also grew up, and it was basically evolved into machine learning and deep learning. So what is artificial intelligence? The first question comes in our mind. So any technique which enables computers to mimic human behavior. It is in simple language, it is basically providing intelligence to machines. That is all about artificial intelligence, nothing more than that. And machine learning is all what I told you about. And for deep learning is basically a subset of machine learning. The difference only here is it involves deep neural networks that you will study in upcoming Mosaic workshops, and it act in a way similar. In a way, neurons act in our brain. So deep learning is nothing but a combination of neural network to produce an output. It basically works better on images. Now, for an example, let us say you have seen in the Facebook app, like let us say someone has uploaded your photos in which you are not tagged, but your photo is there. So Facebook can recognize you with the help of face recognition systems. These are based on deep learning models, the face recognition systems. So the Facebook can recognize you even if you are not tagged, and it sends you notification like there is a photo in which you might be present. So it is one of the best example how Facebook is using deep learning and artificial intelligence to grow its worth. So in this way, Facebook uses artificial intelligence. Now coming to some mind-blowing applications of artificial intelligence. First is the Tonight Show Robotics. This I will show you also just now. Wait for a minute. And this is 4 mind-blowing ways which Facebook uses artificial intelligence. The third one is the machine learning behind Alexa's AI system. This is very good. This you can also see afterwards. And the last is introduction to deep learning and self-driving cars. These you can see yourself, but the this one I would like to show you. Hello, is it visible? The screen.
Yes.
And the volume is coming. Is the volume
No,
visible?
it's not coming.
No, no.
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 Now is it no? Can you hear anything?
No.
Wait. Let me.
No, what you can do is you can just share this video link in the chat itself and ask them to watch it. Like we can give them 8 minutes. The video is of 8 minutes, right? We can give them 8
No,
minutes.
just I will show just 2 minutes video. I wanted to show means okay. I will share the link. Okay, no problem. Okay, so you can watch it later. It is a very interesting video, and you will basically know the mind-blowing applications of AI, that how much it has advanced. And there, in the image, as you can see, there was a robot who can basically understand human emotions. Like like she was able to understand human emotions, and she was able to interact with a human. So the robots are just behaving similar to a human being. So this is where the artificial intelligence has grown up to. Now moving forward, this is basically the types of machine learning problems, that is supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. So in supervised learning, basically there is a supervisor, like you can guess from the name itself, there is a supervisor or there is a label data. Like when you put data set into the machine, you will put the input as well as you will label the output also, like this is a dog or this is a cat, like you will label it, and the machine will also output it as a dog or a cat. But in case of unsupervised learning, there is no label data, like you only put image of a dog and a cat, and it has to predict based on the characteristic, like whether it's a dog or a cat. And also in case of unsupervised, the machine does not output any labels. It basically clusters the objects, like it will put dogs one side and cats one side. So that is what unsupervised learning is all about. And in terms of reinforcement, basically let us say you are a player in a game, and you are put at any stage. So in the beginning you do not know what to do. So what you will do, you will basically move left or right. So let us say you move left and you were shot dead, so there was a penalty. So from next time, what you know, you do not have to move left. So from next time you will move right, and after moving right you will try to shoot other people's. So what you do is you basically do trial and error, and after doing trial and error you are able to learn that how to pass that stage, and after passing the stage you basically get rewards. So that is reinforcement. Like basically you are put in an environment, you try and error, you do trial error concept, you apply trial error concept, and you are able to come out of an environment. So this is basically what is reinforcement. Here also there is no supervision. Now coming to the problem types. The problem types, it can be classified into supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement. Basically supervised was regression and classification problem. Now I will talk in brief about regression and classification. Let us say you are an employee in an organization. So how much salary you will get an increase based on your experience, age, and what type of work you are doing. Like how much salary, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 salary. So these are numerical values. So the numerical values may be infinite, like someone will be getting 1,000, someone will be getting 2,000, like so on. So these are there are many numerical values. So it is where there is continuous data, that is regression basically. Like there are many salary values which can be hiked. And classification is what? Classification is like whether you will get a salary increase or not. Whether based on your experiences, whether you will get a salary increase or not is basically a classification. Here you can see the example of emails, like it is basically classifying whether an email is fraud or not, whether it is an spam or not, based on the headings. Like if there is a keyword like lottery, free, then it will basically know that it is a spam keyword, spam. And it will put in a spam folder. Otherwise, it will move it onto you. So this is basically regression and classification. Now coming to
Bhaiya, can you please explain again regression?
yeah. Like regression is like let's say you are working in an organization, so you wanted some increase in salary. So how the organization decides like how much salary you will want, that how much salary will increase. So basically they decide upon your work experience, your age, and the type of work you do. So this applies for all the employees. Let's assume there are 1,000 employees and they have different types of work experiences, different types of work, and different ages. So the company basically decides how much each one will get increase. So let's say you get 1,000 rupees, some of your employees get 5,000, some may get 5,001, some may get 5,002. So there will be many numerical values, like there are so many numerical values. So it is basically a regression problem, like you are dealing with a lot of numerical values. Not there is no classification, like you cannot classify that you will get yes or no. Classification comes whether you will get a salary increase or not, that is classification. But how much increase you will get, the value basically is regression. Whenever numerical values comes and there are a lot of data that you cannot classify into, like you cannot classify one or two, there are lots of data, 5,000, 5,001, 5,002, that can be infinite. So that is regression.
So that means that's based on the record of the record of the employee.
Yeah, means by seeing the record of the employee. Let's say you have worked for 10 years, then company definitely will try to give you more salary increase. Like say you have worked for, like say someone has worked for 2 years, so he'll get a less salary increase, like he has to work more to get a more salary increase. And let's say you have worked for 10 years, so company will definitely try to give you more increase. So the amount of work experience, type of work, these are basically the input that you give to machines. And how much salary will you get as an increase, that is basically the output that machine will output based on your experiences. So now you are able to understand.
Yes, bhai. Thank you.
Okay. Now coming to unsupervised learning. So unsupervised learning basically is of two types: association and clustering. So what is association? Association, the best example can be in tech ads. Like you have seen various ads. So they basically you make use of association. How? Let us say someone is going to buy a new house. So what is most probably he's going to buy next? He may buy furnitures for his new house, because when someone buys a new house, he basically buys a new furnitures also. So there is an association between a new house and new furnitures. In a similar way, let's say you are doing some courses. So you are doing some course and you will definitely get an ad similar showing similar courses to you, so that you can also do that courses next. So this is what is association. They associate things each other, and in this way they try to make benefit of people, like they try to gain advantage, that what they like and what they will try to do the next, and in this way they try to sell their products. So this is what is association. And for clustering, it is very easy, and you can see in the diagram itself, like it basically clusters people into different groups. Like let us say for our interns, let us talk about internship. So there are lots of resumes. So how the company decides like which employees are of their type. So what it does, it basically enables a filter that basically differentiate different resumes into different types. Like let us say you are applying for ML and someone is applying for development, and someone is only doing CP. So he wants a ML guy. So what he'll do, he will just put a filter. So that filter, what it will do, filter will basically classify the resumes, like all the resumes in which there is more ML content, it will cluster them into one. And when there is more development content, it will cluster them into another. So this is what is called clustering. And this is the difference between association and clustering. So anyone is having any doubts? You can ask. Yeah.
How is clustering different from classification?
Clustering means in classification you basically have to classify, like in classification there is a label data, like we are talking about supervised learning. In classification you will be given like mostly key, yes this is labeled, or there is only you do not have like random data. Like in case of clustering, we do not have any labels, like it has to differentiate on its own. Like it sees like these kind of resumes are one type, and these kind of resumes are another type, and some of the resumes are another type. So there is no labeling. We do not have to teach anything. But in case of classification, we do provide labels. Like in spam also, we first teach the machines like what are the spam types and what are non-spam types. Like we teach them that the folders which contain lottery and all that, they basically basically are spam. We provide them with a label data, not an unlabeled data. But in case of clustering, which is unsupervised, we do not provide any label data. So is it clear?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now coming to reinforcement learning, as I have told you, basically here you can see in the diagram itself, like there is an agent which is trying to solve a maze. So what it will do, it does not know anything about the environment. So it will get inside, move here, there. He will try every possibility. Sometimes he will get penalty. Sometimes he will stuck the wall. Sometimes he will be able to get the path. So at the end, if he is able to get out of the maze, then he will get a reward. Like let's say he gets 5 points or 10 points. So basically reinforcement is based on trial and error concept and the rewards and penalty concept. Like if he does correctly, he will get reward. Like you are a player in a game and you do it correctly and pass the stage, so you will get a reward. And if you do not pass a stage, basically you will get a penalty until you pass a stage. So that is what is all about reinforcement learning. So if anybody has any doubts regarding anything up till now, he or she can ask.
In reinforcement learning, how would a machine perceive rewards?
Means perceive means what it.
How does a reward mean to it? What is a reward for a machine?
Yeah. Let us say you are playing a game, and in a game, you are basically a player is getting what is getting. Basically, he's getting coins or something else. That is only reward. Means let us ignore that also. He will basically adapt to the situation. He will what if let us say you are on an island which is unknown to you. So after some trial and error method, you will be able to adapt to the environment. So what you will get basically you will be able to adapt. You will get better food. You will be able to live better. So that is a reward to you. Means he will be able to survive in that surrounding. That is only the reward.
That means it's similar to bots and games, right?
Yeah. Means if he is able to solve, then definitely it is a reward for him. So that is only a reward, nothing else.
Okay. Sure.
Yes.
Understood.
So let us move forward. If anybody has any doubt, you can ask anytime and anywhere. So let us move forward. Yeah, this is only the type of data. Like in supervised learning, I have told you already that there is a label data. Let us see. You can see here there is a label data and there is a cat, and it is being passed in a machine. It has different characteristics. Basically, this contains characteristics. There is a data or a image. There may be an image and there may be a data also. Like what does it look like? So based on its characteristics, it basically predicts whether it is a dog or a cat. So this is basically a supervised. In unsupervised, I have told you already that there is no label data. It is given a cat, and based on its experiences, like what does a cat look like, what does a dog look like. Wait. It will able to differentiate like whether it is a cat or a dog. Reinforcement, as I have already told you, like it is basically interacting with the environment and getting rewards. So let us move forward. Yes. So coming to the aim. So now you may be wondering like what will be the aim of these all machine learning types. So in supervised learning, basically it is able to predict outcomes. Like there may be many scenarios in which human beings are not able to deal with. Like let us say you have a lot of data set, so you will not be able to deal with all the data set. So there is machine. If you have trained the machine, it will able to predict any of the data set that you give to it. So it will be able to predict new data set points. So that is forecast outcomes. So that is one of the most advantage of machine learning. And for unsupervised learning, it will be discovering patterns. Like I have said it will discover patterns. It will discover your behaviors. It will show you ads based on your behaviors. So basically it is something interacting with you without giving it any full-fledged information. It tries to understand you and shows you ads and other things based on that. So that is unsupervised. And reinforcement is same, like there is a agent and it tries to act in an environment. So that is reinforcement learning. It learns basically the series of actions. So now till now anybody has any doubt, you can ask me like anything if you do not understand about machine learning, deep learning, like what are the data sets. Has everybody understood like what are the data sets? What does data set contain? If anybody has any doubt, you can ask. Okay, so there is no doubt. I'm
भाई
moving.
एक्सक्यूज
Yeah.
मी,
Yes, yes.
एक्चुअली पूछ रहा था कि जितने भी डेटा सेट्स हैं ये सब मशीन लर्निंग के मतलब तीनों सुपरवाइज अनसुपरवाइज और रेनफोर्समेंट तीनों ही
Yes.
एमएल के अंडर आते हैं.
यस यस these are ML टाइप प्रॉब्लम्स. मतलब अब यही है, मतलब ये एक सिंपल है कि अनसुपरवाइज्ड में जैसे हमारे पास जैसे रीइंफोर्समेंट इज व्हाट, लेट अस से यू अ रोबोट, तो वो तो मतलब देयर इज नो डेटा, मींस ही हैज टू इंटरेक्ट विद द एनवायरनमेंट. रीइंफोर्समेंट इज दैट. Unsupervised is something where you do not have any data, you are just providing it images, a lot and lots of images, so it will able to classify whether it is something or other. So yes, all the three comes under machine learning only.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I hope nobody has any doubts. So now basically what we will deal from now onwards, like in the upcoming workshops also, it is all about data science, and it is very important and very interesting one. So starting with the first one, this is business understanding. So this is nothing, this is just problem statement, that you will be given a problem, like you have to work upon a problem, and what will the problem be? Let us say a simple, let us take a simple example, like take us an example of whether the man will be able to repay his loans or not, the basic example. So based on, so you have to understand the problem statement, like what it is asking. It is asking like whether a person will be able to repay or loan or not, because if he is not able to repay the loan, the bank will not provide a loan to him. So this is very much beneficial to the banks. So this is basically business understanding, is basically problem statement understanding. You have to understand the problem, like what it is saying, then you have to proceed forward with the data, what you have to do. Second comes data mining. So data mining is nothing but you have to, means data is not always consolidated, means it is not, it will not have all the values, it will, the some values will be missing also, and there will be sometimes there are no data. You have to prepare the data by yourself, you have to search on the internet, sometimes you have to take photos also by yourself, and you have to gather the data. And let us say if you have data, then there may be lots of data, so you have to select some of them and train your model on them, and try to find the similarity between the data. So that is all about data mining, like you have to search the data and pick some of them and do your work. So this is data mining. Now coming to data cleaning. What is data cleaning? So data cleaning is basically the fix the inconsistencies within the data and handle the missing values. So data mostly contain missing values. Missing values means sometimes some of the columns may do not contain values, like let's say there is a person's height and weight. So let's say for height, some height is given, some weight is given, and some of the heights are not given. So what will you do in that case? So you have to fill that data. You cannot escape from the data, either because that will result in inaccurate results. So either you have to fix with a mean value, median value, or mode value of the height. So this is basically data cleaning. You have to clean the data. You have to find the outliers also. There may be outliers that may produce inaccurate results. So you have to deal with outliers also, and many things are there. You will teach you all in detail in the upcoming workshops. So now fourth come data exploration. So this is also very important. Like you have to explore the data. Like like you have to make charts. There are many libraries and many things which will help you to explore data, like matplotlib, which will help you to plot graphs. With the help of graphs, you will be able to find the relationship, like what are the similarities between the different columns, and which columns are important, which columns are not important. So these are very important things which will be dealing in upcoming workshops. So this is data exploration. Fifth comes feature engineering. What is feature engineering? Feature engineering basically handling features. Like you will be giving some features. What are features? Features is basically the columns. Like let us talk about a fruit. So what is feature according to it? First feature is what is its shape? It may be round or square or anything. What is color? Red, orange, yellow, anything. And where it is found mostly, Nagpur, Maharashtra, anywhere. So this is these are features like shape, size, weight, color. These are features, and making the features in good use is feature engineering. So this is all about feature engineering. Now predictive modeling. Modeling is nothing, just it is the trained machine learning models evaluate their performance and use them to make predictions. So it is basically making the models and predicting the values. So this we will deal later in workshops in detail. Now lastly comes data visualization. So visualization basically communicate the findings. Like what you have finded, you have to tell other people also that I can see this from the output, I can see that from the output, and there is correlation between the column, between the features. So like that, this is data visualization. So this is basically all the 7 parts constitute of data science life cycle. Now if anyone has any doubt in any of the parts, can ask me.
Bhaiya, can you please explain data mining?
Yeah, data mining is let us means when you are given a problem statement, it is not necessary that you are given the data set also. Like you have sometimes you have to gather the data set. So first part is that you may have to gather the data set and you have to make them from scratch. And also second is like if you have data set, so let us say you have millions of records, so you cannot train all the millions of records because these are huge and these will take much more time, and this will not also be trained on the machine. So basically you will just take out some part of
Bhaiya,
it.
can you give an example
What
of data mining?
data mining means what example do you want? Like let us say you are given
Some sort of functions.
Yeah, I'm giving you example like of data mining. Like let us say someone has given me digits classification. Yes, someone has given me digit classification. So I do not have the data set. So from where I will gather the data set? Data mining, it is written clearly, gather and scrap the data necessary for the project. So I do not have the data set for the digits. So I have to gather the digits. So let us say I will give you a practical example. Last time in the Mosaic workshop, we had this same PS like digits recognition. So all we have to do means we got the data set from internet also, but that was not enough. So we made the photos ourselves. Like we have to do make our photos by ourselves. We made the photos. We were 4 of them. So all of us made the photos. We made thousands of photos of different digits, and we made them by ourselves. So this is what is data mining, like adding your own data sets, and what data set is present you are manipulating them. This is what is data mining. And you can now ask anything. There is no function involved.
Okay, Bhaiya.
Yeah, there is only mining, like you have to extract the data, no function is there.
Bhaiya, please explain data exploration.
Yeah, okay. So data exploration means you will also study about this in detail in later workshops. Exploration means what? You have to explore the data. Let us say, yeah, let us say digits only. Digits, you are given different digits. Yeah, no, not digits. Digits will not be a better example. Let us say you are given a flowers or anything data set. There are different columns in it. So let us say there are two columns which are similar to each other. So which are almost similar. Like one is x, so one is 2, another other is 2x. So there is a correlation between both of them. So though you do not need both of them, so you can also delete one of them. So basically you are exploring the data. Like there is a correlation between data, and there is what is the relation between different columns, like different features. That is all about data exploration, like how the different features are related to each other in simple terms.
मेमोरी सेफमेंट का बोल सकते हैं कि लाइक जैसे अगर दो कॉलम्स बहुत ज्यादा अगर सिमिलर हैं, कुछ बहुत
हाँ,
कम ही डिफरेंस है,
या
मेमोरी से
डेफिनेटली
मेमोरी
डेफिनेटली
बचाने के लिए भी मतलब एक सिमिलर
बिल्कुल
कॉलम को
बिल्कुल।
उड़ा दो, ऐसा कुछ।
यस यस यस, बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, मेमोरी भी बचेगी उससे। मतलब फास्ट प्रोसेसिंग तो होगी ही होगी, और फालतू वही इसलिए तो नहीं इसलिए तो हटाते हैं ना, नहीं तो किस लिए हटाएं। मतलब मेन रीजन तो यही रहता है, मतलब कि मतलब मेमोरी बचेगी, और दूसरा और भी रीजंस होते हैं, पर एक मेमोरी भी एक रीजंस होते हैं, बहुत सारे रीजंस होते हैं। मतलब ओवरफिट वगैरह का भी चक्कर रहता है, वो सब फिर आगे आके पढ़ेंगे हम लोग, मतलब वो सब।
थैंक यू।
और
Will
मतलब
you
और भी
share
कोई।
this?
हाँ, या
Like,
वी विल शेयर ऑल ऑफ दिस।
okay.
Now you can ask me any doubts, because I am now handing over to Manak, so you can ask me anything up till now, anything. So okay, there are no doubts. I will be handing over to Manak. So Manak, please. I am unsharing my screen. Hello, Manak.
Bhaiya, एक और can I ask one another doubt?
Yes, yes, you can.
This data science life cycle is for all the three machine learning types, no?
Yeah, means
This
there
is
is
the
a difference.
common process, right?
Yes. Means data science is all. It will involve machine learning. That you will be given a data set. There will be a label data set. There will be a output. So that is a machine learning. But data science basically involves exploration. Like you will involve maths in it. Like you will make graphs and understand the relation between different features. So that is data science. Nothing more than that. It is basically machine learning. Plus, it involves some maths, some statics. Like there will be graphs. So you have to understand the relation between data.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello. Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, so in a data science project, there are the process contains of these five parts. So first part is the obtain part, that is where we have to gather data from relevant sources. So sometimes there can be some problem that you have given a small data set, okay, but you can find another data set and you can merge them or stack them to make it larger, so that your prediction will be much better. So so in that case you have to gather data from different other sources. So first of all, for your setup, for your data science project, you have to do some setup. So we will be working on Python environment, and for that you can use some platforms. Like first of all, you can use Kaggle. So Kaggle is the best platform I have ever worked on for data science type of projects. In Kaggle, you will get real-time data sets, and you can work on them, and the libraries you need for your project are already installed, so there will be not much problem for that. So you can use Kaggle for your current for your this competition also, and for other projects also. Another is Google Colab. So Google Colab is better in the sense that Google Colab is easy to integrate with your drive. So there can be much more larger data set. You can't actually upload easily. So you can download them in your. So if that data set is in your drive, Google Drive, you can mount that Google Drive and you can use Google Colab and access that data and work on that. So sometimes there can be larger size of image data sets, so you can't actually upload that easily. And the third type is your local PC setup. So you can install Anaconda with Jupyter Notebook in your PC. Why you install Anaconda? Because it creates the Python environment, and it also installs some required libraries with it, so that you don't have to install them individually again and again. So you can use Anaconda Jupyter Notebook for in your PC. So finally, we came to the opt-in part. So for opt-in part, you have to collect data from different sources. So the sources we generally use are Kaggle UKI machine learning repository, and data.government. Okay, so, and there are also so many sites for finding data sets. So So these are some sites where you can get easily some data sets, and you can use them whenever you need. Now the second part is the Scrub.
We can access them for free now.
Yes, these all are open source data sites. You can get them freely.
Okay.
So now there is Scrub. So what Scrub is that you have to clean your data set. Okay, so first of all, you gather your data set. So you can so let's say you have one Excel file, you have one CSV file, you can have one XML file. Okay, now you have to bring them in some format which machine understands. Like machine does not understand XML, or uh, machine does not understand your XLX. Okay, your Python code. Your Python does not understand your XML, or Python does not understand your XLX file. So first of all, you have to convert them into some data format which Python actually understands. So for this, you can use pandas or NumPy. So there are, so what we generally use, what data types we generally use, that we use pandas data frame or pandas series or NumPy arrays. These are these data formats we generally use, and you can search these libraries and explore more. Hello. So for this you can use these libraries pandas, NumPy, and this is Scrub. So in Scrub there is also another step that you have to clean your data set. Means you can have some garbage values also, or you can have some fields where you have no values. So if you don't clean your data and you just pass it into your machine learning algorithm, then it will obviously give you garbage results. So for that you have to first explore your data set, and you have to find out that which parts there is no data. There can be in some datasets, in the datasets which are actually available, there are some fields, there are some rows, there are some columns where there are no data. So those are empty. So we generally drop those rows, or we generally fill those rows with some alternate values, and then we use the dataset for further preprocessing. And after that there comes the exploration part. Explore. So in Explore, what you do is that you explore the data set and find out some patterns in that. Okay, so like you can see the mean or variance, or you can visualize them, and you can find out that which columns actually which features are more important, which features are have more correlation with the data, and you can plot those. And for that we use these libraries pandas, NumPy, Matplotlib, or Seaborn. Pandas and NumPy are generally for your arranging your data set, and Matplotlib and Seaborn is just to make plots, so that you can make the plots and you can visualize them and you find some pattern. After that there comes the modeling part. So in this model part you have to pass. Now your pre-processing data is done. Okay, you have arranged some features, you have you have created some features, and now you have pre-processed your data. Okay, now you have to pass that through some machine learning algorithm to find your prediction. So you can do regression or you can do classification. Accordingly you will you will use your algorithm and you will pass that data set and you will get your prediction. So in this part we use we also sometimes we optimize our algorithms, and for these we use these libraries scikit-learn, keras, XGBoost or Optuna. Scikit-learn is mostly used for the data science related problems, and you will be also using this scikit-learn. It has it has pre-implemented the algorithms, machine learning algorithms, which you will need for your prediction, and same like as XGBoost and keras. And Optuna is used for optimizing your algorithm. You will find out more about this when you will explore this. After that, it comes the interpretation part. So now your model prediction is done, okay, but you will show it to some person who is actually non-technical. So how you will show it to them? So for that you have to print it in some fashionable manner. You have to print it in tabular form, or you have to make plots, charts like pie chart or bar graph or line plots, whatever. So that is the interpretation part. How much your duty as an as a data scientist engineer doesn't end at the after the uh, prediction of your data. Okay, you have to show it in better manner so that the other persons who can understand those results easily. So here also we use these two libraries mostly, Matplotlib and Seaborn. So so here is the end of this process. So now your data science project is ready. What I will suggest as a co-coordinator, as a coordinator of this event, that you explore all these libraries from yourself, because that much better you know about these libraries. You can do all your pre-processing and your prediction and your visualization more easy and efficient ways. So explore these libraries from yourself, and start exploring as soon as possible, so that you can use those functions in your projects or assignments. So now this is hands-on time, so I will hand over it to Akshat.
Anyone who is having any doubt can ask about anything.
भैया
Yes.
बोला था.
हेलो.
Yes.
एक्चुअली एक चीज पूछनी थी, जैसे ही बोलते हैं कि पाइथन में बहुत सारी लाइब्रेरीज होती हैं, तो क्या पाइथन में मॉडलिंग की कोई लाइब्रेरी नहीं होती कि अपन अलग से कुछ और यूज करते हैं?
हाँ, कैन यू रिपीट योर क्वेश्चन?
और पाइथन में जैसे मैंने सुना है कि पाइथन में बहुत सारी लाइब्रेरीज होती हैं जिसकी वजह से इसको डेटा साइंस में काफी ज्यादा यूज करा जाता है, तो जैसे मॉडलिंग जब अपन करते हैं एक्सप्लोरेशन और हर चीज करने के बाद, तो फिर क्या पाइथन में उसके लिए कोई अलग से लाइब्रेरी नहीं होती है?
देखो, मॉडलिंग एंड एक्सप्लोरेशन के लिए लाइब्रेरीज तो वही है, पांडास एंड नामपाई, वही तुम यूज करोगे.
एक्चुअली प्रेजेंट इन पाइथन ऐसा?
हाँ, वो एक्चुअली पाइथन की लाइब्रेरी है. तुम पाइथन लैंग्वेज में उनको यूज करोगे.
अच्छा, पाइथन
is providing you the environment, and
these are the libraries in that environment.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, can I start now?
Yes, yes.
It's visible. the screen. Now. Is it visible?
No, it's not visible.
Is it now visible?
No.
Still not visible. I'm sharing it from my side. Why are not able to see it?
Try rejoining the meet, Akshat.
दादी थोड़ा धीमे कर लो इसे.
Okay.
Till then, guys, if you have any doubt, you can ask.
Yeah, you can ask your any of your doubts related to anything. You can ask. It's visible.
Now it's visible.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So hello everyone, I'm Akshat Sood and I will be demonstrating some of the tools which you came across in the previous slides. So while my fellow member was talking about some platforms on which you can do data science, so one of them was Google Colab, which is a very beautiful tool in which you along with your team members can collaborate for a particular project. In order to open it, you just have to search Google Colab and click on the first link. After opening, it will reach out to a default setting like this. And in this, you have to click on New Notebook. And once the notebook is ready, you can just start typing in the code, and also you can share it with your friends. And they can also collaborate on this in real time. Now going on to the demonstration, here's a code in which I will be working on a very elementary data set and showing you some of the functions which you can use. So here are the libraries which you came across recently. It's Pandas, NumPy, Matplotlib, and sklearn. Now in order to use any library in Python, you have to use the import keyword. By writing the import keyword, you instruct Python language to include that particular library in your workspace so that you can access all the functions and the methods which are present. Like if you want to include a library, say XYZ, you just have to write import XYZ. In this way, it imports. Now you may say why I have written as PD in above line. So for that, I have written it to make it easy for me to use that library. So say in pandas, there's a function, say pandas.info. So instead of writing pandas everywhere in my code, I can simply write PD. So you can treat it as an alias for this particular library. Now, after you have imported these libraries, I will be taking a dataset which is preloaded in the sklearn library. This is also a library which you recently got to know about, and you do not need any external file in order to load this dataset. It is already preloaded in the sklearn library. Now, if I show you how it looks like, so it's like this. It's an dictionary in which there's a data, and this is the features which are available. Actually, it's a 4 columns like the 4 features. And secondly, there are the data module in which it's present and the feature names. Like the first feature is sepal length, then sepal width, petal width, and petal length and petal width. And these are the target values. Now, this is actually a classification data set in which you have 3 types of flowers, which are the Setosa, Versicolor, and Virginita. And these are represented like Sentosa is represented by 0, Versicolor by 1, and Virginica by 2. So in this way, we will now construct our data set. Now by taking iris.data, what I am doing is I am saving my this numpy array in the variable x because these are my features. And in y, iris.target, I am saving my target variables here, like this numpy array, which is the target variable of my data set. Secondly, after doing this, what I am doing is I'm creating a dictionary, because in pandas, if you have to create a data frame, you have to pass a dictionary to a function which is called data frame. It is a function which takes a dictionary as an argument, and you have to pass a Python dictionary inside, and it will return you a pandas data frame. So in this, I have added first feature, and now I have slicing. So before going on, I must tell you about slicing. So in slicing, what happens is if you have a 2D array, in this case, we have this X array, which is a 2D numpy array, like you can see here. There's 1D array of size 4, and similarly, we have a stack of these 1D arrays, which corresponds to a 2D array. If you want to see the shape of the array as well, you can see that it's 154, like there are 1D arrays of size 4. So what happens in slicing is if I write X, A, B and comma C, comma D, what does this mean is it will take all the values from row number A to row number B minus 1 of our numpy array X, and all the values from column number C to column number D minus 1. So this is called slicing. As you can see from the word itself, we are slicing away the data from a data set. And in this way, I have taken all the rows. This means that if I have written something like this, like neither I have written A, neither B, I have just left it blank, it means I am taking all the rows. And in case I have written this after the comma, and here I have written some 1, 2, it means that I want to take the first row, and of the first row I have to take all the columns. So in similar way, I am what I am doing in this is in X. In this, I am taking all the rows of my data set, but only the first column, just because I only need the first feature. In the similar way, when I am taking the second feature, I am taking all the rows, and then I am taking the second column. Similarly, again, I'm taking all the rows, but only the third column because I only need the third feature. And similarly, I am just taking the dictionary here, and I will be passing it to my pd.dataframe function, and it will return me the data. Now there's another function which you can see here, which is .ravel. What it does is it converts a 2D numpy array to a 1D numpy array, because when passing on this dictionary to a pd.dataframe function, we have to first convert these into a 1D array. Because if you see, if I do this, I am taking all the rows and just taking the first column. So you can see I have the first column from my data set X, and if I try to print the shape of it, it is 150 cross 1. It is not 1D, it's actually 2D. So if I do it Ravel, you can see it has converted it into a one-dimensional numpy array. Secondly, now I have created my data set, and if I want to see some top rows from my data set, by default data.head displays the top 5 rows from a data set. In case you need to display 10 or any number of rows from your data set, like the top rows, say you want to see the top 8 rows of your data set, you just input 8 inside the function, and it will display the top 8 rows of your data set. Similarly, there is another function tail, which displays the top 5 rows from the last. In case, and in similar way, you can pass any number inside corresponding to how many rows you want to see from the last of your data set. Thirdly, there's another function data.shape, like it was in NumPy, in which it returns the shape of your data set, like the number of rows, the first argument, and the number of columns, the second argument. So in this data set, it is a classification data set in which we have 4 features, first, second, third, fourth, and a target variable. And what we have to do in this is, using these 4 features, we will input it to a model and then correspondingly train an algorithm which will predict this target variable for us. In case you want to see the column names of a data set, like for this small data set, it is quite visible from here, but it may arrive that the data set is quite large. It may not even able to fit in this particular screen size. So for that, we can use data.columns method in which it displays all the column names which are there. Secondly, in case there's a one target column here and you want to see how many values are there, like the count of the values which are present in that particular column. So you can use the value counts method in which it displays the values which are there in the data set and also the corresponding count, like how many are there. In this case, the data set is perfectly balanced and each category has an equal amount of presence in the data set. Secondly, you can use unique method to determine the number of unique values which are present in a particular column. Like for target, it prints all the unique values which are there. Then another important method is the describe function. It only sums up the data set for you, like for every particular column, what is the count, what is the mean, what is the standard deviation, what is the minimum value, what is the maximum value, and these are the quartile values which may not be quite relevant for you at this moment. But you can definitely understand this, the count, the standard deviation, and the minimum and the maximum value. Thirdly, another function is data.info. It describes the number of columns which are there, and also one important thing it says is the non-null count. Like it may arrive that in real world data set there's high possibility that it has null values, like missing values or some absurd values which are not relevant to us. So you can definitely see through them by using the data.info method, and it also displays the data type which is being used. Secondly, I come to a matplotlib in which definitely helps you in visualizing the data set in a much better manner. Just because by seeing these numbers and the tables, you definitely don't get the correct intuition, but seeing graphs, plotting them definitely gives you a better intuition of the data set. So one simple function in matplotlib is plt.scatter, which definitely plots a scatter plot, like the distant values. Like if I'm plotting the first feature with the target variable, so I'm going by this, the first feature, and this the target variable. So it will distantly plot all the values like 5.1, 0, 4.9, 0, like this. So in this, it helps in visualizing. As you can see that the target variable 2 starts from roughly from here, like majorly it's concentrated around this region. Then the target variable 1 is concentrated around this region, and similarly the target variable 0 is concentrated around this region. So this helps you in getting a correct intuition of the data set, and correspondingly you can develop or rather deploy the correct algorithm to the point and just gather the points. Secondly, I would like in the data set which I am currently using, there are no null values, as you can see in this data.info. It says no non-null, non-none in all the columns. So I am deliberately adding a null value, and in order to do that, I am using a copy function so that I'm saving my data in another variable so that it does not alters my original data set. So what I am doing is, in my first feature column, I am replacing 5.1 value, like how many in whatever way 5.1 is there in my data set, it will be replaced by np.nan, which corresponds to a null value. And what I'm doing is in place is equal to true. So instead of, like, there are two options. If you don't do in place is equal to true, what you have to do in responses, you have to assign it again to after applying the function like this. Like these two are equivalent, this and this. Instead of, if you don't apply in place is equal to true, you have to assign it back to the column in which you are replacing it, else it will give an error. So using in place is equal to true definitely eases up our work, and so I use it. So after replacing 5.1 with a null value, you can see that I am displaying the top 5 rows of my new data set, and it says NaN, which is a null value. So there may be chances that in like on the data sets you will be working, you will definitely get some null values. So what to do in case you get? Now there are actually two options for that. In first case, the null values are not very large in quantity, like there are very less. In that case, what you can do is you can replace these NaN values with either the mean of that particular column or the median of that particular column. Like these are the elementary strategies which are used for dealing with the null values. Else, in other case, if these null values are high in quantity, then the best practice is to drop out those columns which are having this large amount of null values. So in order to do so, what we do is we use the drop NA method. It drops all the columns, like using access is equal to 0. I am dropping all the, access is equal to 0 drops all the rows having the NaN value. Like after using test.drop NA, you can see that this row has been dropped because it had NaN value. And if I used access is equal to 1, access is equal to 0, it will drop all the rows which are having the NaN value, and similarly you can do so. Yeah, so this was all from my side. Like it was just an elementary demonstration to get some practical hands on the libraries which you were told about in the previous slides, and you can definitely explore more about these libraries if you wish to. And that's all from my side, and from now on Ujjwal will be proceeding. Ujjwal?
Yes, I am presenting. Is my screen visible?
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, anybody, if anyone has any doubts, you can ask before beginning.
Bhaiya?
Yes.
I haven't understood it completely, but I understand that I feel that we must have prerequisite knowledge about Python and arrays.
Yeah, it is not necessary that you may have all the knowledge about it, and also many of them would have not understood it because it is very new to you. We will be providing all the material, so you will just see once, and also now I'm telling you various playlist and materials from where you can study. So just first let me tell you what are the materials. So from there you can study it, and don't worry, nobody understands it in the first place. Like I was also unable to understand, like I have understood it very late, so there is no worry about it. You will understand.
Okay, Bhaiya.
And you can ask any of us on the poster. All our phone numbers are given, so you can DM us at any of the time.
I have a doubt.
Yes.
How is data science exactly related to machine learning?
Yes. So see, in machine learning, basically machine learning, what it does, it basically it tries to identify the relation between the input and output. Like let us say that I have given you the basic example, like I'm showing you like x and y. So it was x and y was x square. So it was trying to basically figure out the relationship between x and y, the input and the output. Like first it outputted like x plus 2, fx is x plus 2, which was wrong. So it tried to improve the algorithm, and finally it was able to predict fx equals to x square. So this is machine learning. Like it is able to develop an algorithm and able to develop a mapping between the input and the output. So it is able to guess like it is able to take the decisions by itself. So it is all about machine learning. And now coming to data science, like how it is related. So in data science also we make use of machine learning, like also there is the data. So data in machine learning we make use of data. In data science also there is a data. And then like there is input, there is output. But what extra there is in data science is that you have to manipulate the data. You have to play with data. That data is not something that will be given to full data will not be given. Means the data will not be always correct. There will be missing values. There will be some outliers. There will be many things that will be wrong with the data set. So you have to improve the data set. You have to manipulate the data set. So manipulating the data set and then making the machines predict the output, so that machine gives better output. Like if you put the raw data, the results might not be that good. But if you manipulate the data, if you handle the missing values, like there may be some values missing. So if you handle the missing values or outliers, then your model will become very good. So manipulating and playing with the data along with machine learning, like the data is given. Data is basically machine learning, and manipulating the data, understanding the data, and then making the model. The model part is machine learning, like you are making the model, regression, classification, you will understand in data workshops. So that is machine learning part. And when you manipulate with the data, that is data science part. So this is complete data science. In this way, it is related.
That means, do we need to, data science means we are increasing the probability of the data which is missing. Is it something like
no, we are not increasing. We are we are helping ourselves.
We are guessing it right.
We are guessing. We are guessing the missing values. We are guessing, but there are some mathematics behind guessing. Like we do not guess blindly. Like let us put 2, 4, 3, like that. We do not do like that. We will first see that column. Like in what way we should fill the missing values. Like let us say different heights are given. So let us say 2 heights are missing. So what we can take in that heights? Let us say, can anybody give me the answer that what can we fill in those missing values?
Mean or median
values mean or median. So how you are filling? Because you are taking the average. Like you can think that most of the missing people may be of this height, like the mean of the other people. So you are basically, you are not blindly guessing. You are just thinking like what would be better. Mean would be better, median would be better. So this is not just blind guessing. This is a guessing, but there is a complete maths behind it. So you will study that.
What does outlier mean?
Outlier means something that is not present. That is outside. Like let us say you have 5 or 6 values. Let us say you have 5 values, 1, 2, 3, 4, and other is 1,000. So that 1,001 is outlier because it is not correlated in any way to the rest of 4s. So something that is out of box, like that is not related to other points, is called as an outlier. Like let us say all of the class members have weight 10, 20, 30, and someone is very heavy, like he has weight 120. So that may be considered as an outlier because it is having weight a lot of much than the average population. So that is an outlier.
Something like abnormalities.
Yeah, abnormalities. Any other doubts? Anyone? You can ask any doubts, anything related to anything. Okay, now I am proceeding. So here comes some useful YouTube playlist and videos. So first one is Krish Nag machine learning playlist. This is very useful. This is something where I have learned machine learning. I will just show you. Like there is complete machine learning. There are 149 videos. You do not have to watch all 149. If you have time, you can also watch. I have watched 70-80 videos. So you can also watch. Means these are very good. And see the Anaconda installation, Python basics, why is Python getting Python list, Boolean variables, all the things we have taught today, plus many extra things will be taught here. So you can, anyone who is interested and who wants to become good at it, you can study here. Means everything is present, everything. So this is one of the best YouTube channels which I will recommend. And
can beginners follow it?
It is pure beginners. Pure beginners. You even do not know anything, you can follow this first playlist. This is best one for any beginner. And second is StatQuest. This is this is also means this is much practical, so you can also follow this you will get many practical knowledge, so you can also follow this. Means we will share all of these, so you can just see machine first and second one, these both are very important, and rest also we have attached the links like downloading Python and PyCharm installation. PyCharm is basically a Python IDE where you can code Python. So this is it. And how to read dataset in Google Colab. Colab is what Akshat Sood was showing just previously. So Google Colab, you will work all the datasets in Google Colab because there you will work much faster. So you can see this also. What is Kaggle? Kaggle is where most of the competitions and hackathons are held. It is our website basically. And if anybody has any doubt, you can ask. Install Anaconda with Jupyter Notebook. Jupyter is not very necessary, but you can install as a beginner. You can start with Jupyter Notebook. Rest Colab is a must.
Bhaiya, can you please tell what is Jupyter?
Jupyter Notebook is basically used for running Python. Wait, let me see.
Excuse me.
I have yes. Tell.
I have a question. The Iris dataset that was used in the previous model was actually a predefined dataset present in the Google Drive, and then it was imported from there.
No. Actually, it's present in the sklearn library. Like if you can see in the top of the cell, I used from sklearn import star, and then I used the dataset. Yeah, it's present in the sklearn library.
So yeah, so as you can see my screen, this is something that is Jupyter Notebook. Once you will install, there are many videos also. Here you can what Akshat has written on the Google Colab, you can write it here also, but it is a bit slow as compared to Google Colab, so we will prefer Google Colab only. But you can write this also. This is also very important. I have attached the links also, like install Anaconda with Jupyter Notebook. This you can see. This
is it like IDE?
Yeah, it is like IDE. It is like IDE.
Okay.
And these are all videos. The first two are very important for learning, and this install Anaconda with Jupyter Notebook. You all must install this and this also, Google Colab also. These four are very important. The rest you can just see afterwards. Useful links, references, and sites. Yes, so collaboratory. Just shown Jupyter also, Kaggle also. Medium is just a site where you can study various data science related blogs. Analytics Vidya is also the same. Coursera, one thing I want to tell you all that in Coursera, basically you can apply for, like, let me show you. Machine learning. Let us say you have to take a course. You can means Coursera is best site for learning any course also. Like there is a financial aid section for any courses. So you can move on to financial aid, continue the application, and you can fill the application, like you can fill and proceed. So what does it do is like you can access the course material freely. So this is the best thing about Coursera. So you can go to financial aid and apply it. So please everyone go to Coursera and please take 2 or 3 courses of Andrew NG. Those are also very useful. So these are some useful references, sites and links. Yes.
Where was the financial aid column?
Yeah, let me show you again. Okay. Let us say you went to, like I have searched machine learning Andrew NG, Stanford University. So it is opening. Just it will the front page, the first page where there is everything. It is financial aid. Go to course, right of go to course, financial aid available. So you can click on that, continue the application. 15 days. It takes 15 days to approve the. You can just double tick all, do as it is given. And after 15 days, you will be able to access the material freely. So this is the advantage of Coursera. You can take many infinite courses freely. And Krishnak video is also very important. So you can follow, subscribe to those two.